Somewhere in the mountains, there's a small town with a small cemetery that is different from any other cemetery in the world. And one day, a traveler stumbled across the cemetery by accident, and he was curious, as all travelers are, and so he began to read the stories on the tombstones. But then he felt sad, because underneath the first name, it said that that person had lived for 8 years, 6 months, and 3 days. And then the next tombstone, underneath that name, it said that that person had lived for 5 years, 7 months, and 12 days. And this cemetery was a beautiful, peaceful place, full of flowers and birds, but the traveler felt a dread starting to fill his heart as he started looking around and counting. And as the dread grew bigger and bigger, he started rushing around the cemetery more and more frantically, and he discovered to his horror that in the entire place there was not a single person buried there who had lived for more than 11 years. And he couldn't believe it, because the people of this town were the friendliest, kindest, happiest people that he had met anywhere in the world. And he couldn't bear the thought that these wonderful people, had had to endure such a terrible tragedy. What sort of horrible curse rested upon this town that made them have to bury an entire generation of their children? And just then he saw a young woman bringing fresh flowers to put upon one of the graves, and he went up to her with tears in his eyes and a heavy heart, and he said, "I'm so sorry. No parent should ever have to bury their children. I'm so sorry you lost your son." But to his surprise, she laughed. She laughed and said, "Oh, friend, you're not from here. He was not my son. He was my grandfather, and he lived to the ripe old age of 88. "But how is that possible? It says on the tombstone that he only lived for 9 years. "Ah, yes, that's true, and 9 years well spent. But you see, it's no mystery. I'll tell you. You see, we have a custom in our village, and it's this." And she carefully pulled out a small booklet that she carried around her neck on a golden chain. And as she flipped through the pages, the traveler saw that the first pages were filled with a tiny, neat, elegant handwriting, and the rest were blank. And she said to him, "These are the books of our lives, and every single one of us in the village has one. And in them we write down every single moment in which we feel truly happy. And right next to that, we write down how long that happiness lasts. And then, when someone dies at whatever age, we take those books and we add up all those moments, and that is what we put on the tombstone. Because here we have understood that the time in which we are happy is the only time that we truly live."